After a harrowing accident at sea, Jen's unconscious body drifts ashore on a remote island. When she regains consciousness, she spots her friend Brad lying nearby. Fearing for his life, Jen rushes to him and is horrified to find a large piece of coral lodged in his stomach. She cries out for help, but the island responds only with silence. Searching Brad's vest, she retrieves a flare gun, and with sheer determination, she drags him further from the shoreline. Knowing she must act quickly, Jen removes the coral and uses fabric to cover the gaping wound. Brad, barely responsive, mutters a cryptic question. "Did you see it?" Confused and worried, Jen decides he needs water, so she ventures into the jungle, cracks open a coconut with a rock, and rushes back, only to find Brad already lifeless. Devastated, Jen begins to explore the island. Walking along the beach, she soon realizes she's somehow traveled in a circle, ending up exactly where she started. Determined to search further, she pushes deeper into the jungle and stumbles upon a collection of old, weathered belongings scattered across the area. Desperately calling for help again, she receives no reply. Searching through a nearby bag, she finds some medicine, and in a cooler, she discovers sealed soda bottles. Hidden beneath a pile of leaves, Jen uncovers even more objects. A small metal box containing matches, sailcloth, and a bag of toys. Suddenly, an eerie noise draws her attention. Following the sound to a hollow tree, Jen peers inside, startled as a bird bursts out and flies away. Returning to Brad's lifeless body, Jen covers him with large leaves before noticing the sun beginning to set. She searches for shelter just as rain begins to fall, draping the sailcloth over herself and setting out items to collect fresh water. By morning, the tide has brought hundreds of dead fish to shore. Shocked but resourceful, Jen collects the fish and stores them in the cooler for later. However, her shock deepens when she discovers a dead shark washed ashore, its body marred by vicious gashes. Using rocks, Jen decapitates the fish, keeping them for survival. Among the items she's scavenged, she discovers a notebook, but the waterlogged pages are illegible. A single photo of a couple tucked inside the notebook fills her with overwhelming loneliness. While exploring further, Jen stumbles across unsettling piles of rocks and a cross-shaped branch. Realization dawns. These are graves. Inspired, she decides to bury Brad properly. Digging a hole in the sand, Jen lays his decaying body to rest, covering the grave with leaves, sand, and marking it with a piece of wood bearing his initial. That night, as darkness swallows the island, Jen hangs the sailcloth, its gashes eerily resembling the shark's wounds, and starts a fire with the matches, cooking the fish she collected. But when morning comes, her peace is shattered. Brad's grave is disturbed, his body gone, and the sand stained with blood. Fear grips Jen as she realizes something monstrous roams the island. Determined to survive, she fashions a spear by lashing a sharpened rock to a branch. Nightfall finds Jen seated against a log, her spear in hand, watching the jungle vigilantly. Exhaustion eventually overtakes her, but her sleep is broken by strange noises. Unable to see anything in the dark, Jen convinces herself it must have been the fire crackling. The next day, Jen spots floating debris near the shore and swims out to investigate. Diving below the surface, her curiosity turns to terror as she discovers a massive, mysterious hole at the ocean floor. Afraid of what might lie within, she swims back to shore, bringing a suitcase with her. Inside, she finds warm clothes and changes into them for comfort. That night, Jen's hope flares when she hears a plane overhead. Rushing to the beach, she fires the flare gun into the sky. The flare arcs brightly but falls into the sea, revealing the silhouette of a strange, towering creature lurking in the water. Jen panics, grabbing her spear and fleeing into the jungle. The creature emerges from the waves, prowling the island and searching through the bushes, but it fails to spot her and retreats back to the ocean. Morning reveals the monster's destructive presence. Her camp is a mess. As Jen picks up the scattered photos, she notices the monster's glowing eyes hidden in the background of one image. With mounting desperation, Jen tries to escape. She places Brad's and her life vests into the suitcase, hoping to use it as a raft, but her makeshift vessel proves unstable, tipping her into the water. Frustrated and hopeless, she abandons the effort and drags the suitcase back to shore. That night, Jen hides inside the hollow tree. The monster returns, this time shaking the log she had used for support, pounding on it in search of her. Terrified, Jen clings to silence as the monster growls and prowls, but eventually it gives up and leaves. Over the following days, Jen survives by fishing during the daylight and hiding at night. With her spear, she even manages to kill a small shark and hangs it from a tree. That night, however, she hears the monster return and take the shark away. Days later, another body washes ashore, a gruesome sight with its legs missing and face mutilated. Jen uses the corpse as bait, hiding to watch the monster drag it down and feed on it. Just then, another plane flies by, but Jen can't reveal herself. She remains frozen in her hiding spot as the monster prowls nearby. In desperation, Jen constructs a hammock from the sailcloth, ropes, and belts, hanging it high in the trees for safety. That night, the monster returns, shaking the hammock violently until Jen tumbles to the ground. She flees, the creature in pursuit, swimming and leaping to gain speed. The chase ends when Jen stabs it with her spear, but the monster retaliates, sending her sprawling into the water. A sudden thunderclap startles the creature, and it retreats, leaving Jen alive but injured. Morning brings hope. Jen spots a life raft carrying Lucas and Mia. Overjoyed, she helps them ashore, sharing her supplies and recounting the horrors she's endured. But Lucas and Mia dismiss her warnings, thinking Jen is hallucinating. Tensions escalate when Jen notices blood on Lucas's Swiss knife. Fearing for her safety, she tries to leave on the raft, but Lucas and Mia stop her. In the struggle, Mia knocks Jen unconscious with an oar. When she awakens, Jen is tied to a tree, forced to listen as Lucas rants about their relationship and his frustrations. Suddenly, Mia's screams echo from the shore. Lucas runs to her aid, only to witness the monster attacking. He's thrown aside as the creature drags Mia into the ocean. The next morning, Lucas agrees to leave with Jen. They prepare provisions and set off in the raft. However, the monster follows them, attacking from below. As Lucas fires the flare gun, the monster punctures the raft, pulling Jen underwater. She stabs it with Lucas's dagger, breaking free, but the creature drags Lucas into the depths. Grief-stricken, Jen swims ashore, reigniting the fire and writing a letter as a final plea for help. That night, she sets a trap, using bait and fire to lure the monster. In a brutal battle, Jen fights fiercely, stabbing it repeatedly with spears and bones despite being injured. Wounded and weakening, the monster collapses. Jen doesn't hesitate. She stabs it over and over until it finally dies. Victorious, Jen cuts off the monster's head and drags it with her to the raft. As flames consume the jungle behind her, Jen prepares to leave, the monster's severed head as proof of her harrowing fight for survival.